Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yep, right. Good to go. How's it going?
I've been hella busy. Let me close out
You,
the document. What's
huh?
going on with you? I said,
Oh,
what's going on with you?
oh, I'm just sitting here, self quarantining. No, just kidding.
I heard, I heard, they cut off continental Europe.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
serious, man. Those survivalists, they've been waiting for this. This is Judgment Day.
yeah. Somebody's probably sitting in their bunker right now. I'm not getting that.
Nah,
They got their
this is economically. You start shorting the airline industry, the cruise industry, anything that deals with tourism. You start shorting those stocks. In addition to that, you start throwing money on Smith and Wesson stocks and all those other gun stocks, and I don't know. Almost most of my portfolio is in military defense, which should be sheltered from all that. So
yeah, and or you put it into liquor as well in times of economic crisis or recession or whatever. The alcohol industry does pretty well. So
it's alcohol industry and the porn industry.
yeah.
They tend to have a surge because people are at home and they don't have anything else to do.
Well, I've kind of wondered that. I'd love to see like the Pornhub statistics for when everyone started working from home during this last month. Like, did their traffic spike
Oh,
randomly? You know?
I don't know. I think intelligent people probably wouldn't do that on their machines, on their business
Well,
machines.
yeah, but I mean, you're at home, so they could do they. I mean, they could just go to their other computer for however long it takes.
Yeah,
No,
it
I'm
shouldn't
just
be shouldn't
I'd be
be too
curious.
long.
It'd be kind of fun to go and just have all of the data that's available in Pornhub and just be able to look at the data just from a being able to correlate it to human events and see what how things impact that.
I'm sure it has
Uh,
already been a conversation that's been had
yeah, yeah. So
between social scientists or whatever you want to call them, researchers, to the actual leadership in those types of businesses. I'm sure they are looking at reports and figuring out ways to make money off of it
yeah,
or make informed decisions.
yeah. I'm just hoping as the summer rolls around that the virus gets doesn't really spread, or as it gets warmer and warmer, it stays pretty well contained, and then just dies off.
How did SARS die off?
I was reading something this morning about once the warm weather hit, SARS just basically the virus couldn't live in 70-80 degree weather, so it just basically died off over time. Um, now there is places in the U.S. right now that have it that are 70-80 degree weather. Um,
Oh, does that mean like South America and Africa are pretty much immune, or South Pacific? That can't be right.
no, I don't know. I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying I read something that said that was the reason SARS,
Mm.
a huge reason that SARS didn't really break out as bad is because just timing wise, it was warm, and so they were the ones once they contained it. Once the summer basically came through, it just basically wiped it out. But
Yeah,
I mean that this could be different, and there's no guarantee of that the warm weather will help. They think that most of the cases in the warmer states are probably just people that had been traveling elsewhere got it and brought it back, and it's just all they have to do is really contain it, and in those places.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I don't know. I I feel like I'm the next generation Tom Clancy, and so like I also think like if I were a bad person, how would I take advantage of this? And it's like, oh, okay, well you go to Italy or whatever province in China or anywhere that has uh, a relatively high infection rate. You drink off the cups or do whatever to get yourself infected, and then you go ahead and hop on a train or whatever and just start spraying people with mist, and then that's an easier way versus bullets
yeah,
or a detonation to I don't know.
yeah, turn yourself into a biological weapon,
Yep.
basically. But
And I feel like it's a lot easier to do.
well, you have to find a virus worth that we haven't already solved, or people
Well, I mean,
have a bad immunity to, and then last long enough yourself so that
yeah, but the thing
you're not
is
dying.
you already found the virus, right? Or you and you know
Yeah,
that the virus targets a specific demographic in regards to age. And so if you have a political agenda or AKA, terrorists that resort to violence to achieve that, then that would more than likely be a tool that they would use since everything else hits the FBI radar
yeah,
based on your electronic footprint.
yeah. I'm
And
this just sucks though. I'm guessing the event that I was going to go to for the LCS Spring Finals, they haven't announced it yet. They're going to wait till this next week. And I'm not sure what they're waiting for, if it's whatever, but I'm fairly certain they're going to move it or cancel it in April. So that sucks. I'll have to see. Uh, the hotel was non-refundable, so I'll have to see if I can get like a credit or something with that, and then see if I can cancel the flight or not, or if I'm stuck paying for a trip to Dallas for nothing.
the stock market, man, I don't know if you remember the Great Recession.
Oh yeah,
Do you
yeah,
remember all the news reports of well-to-do head of households basically doing murder suicide? It's about to start happening again with this stock market. So, all right, I can talk about other things.
yeah. I'm also worried about. Actually, I'm one of the biggest things I'm worried about is I was thinking about exploring different jobs this summer, but if suddenly every there's a hiring hold because of this whole, you know, the fear around this, it's gonna be a pain in the ass.
I was having this conversation yesterday, and I think just like the Great Recession, it's just going to be an opportunity for companies to get rid of people that they just don't like, that may be difficult to do without HR and legal
Yeah,
risks. So
I
now
suppose
this
it's
is
just
an opportunity for them to, yeah, let's get so and so off.
yeah,
It's,
businesses. They can say, "Well, we didn't fire you because you suck. We fired you because we can't we
we don't
can't
have the
afford you
budget.
right now."
That
Yeah,
and I remember like when I was in Cleveland, um, the company when I was a full time employee said, "Hey, we're going through hard times right now, quote unquote. So we can we're laying people off, but also we're asking you or we're requesting you or we're telling you that you're going to take a 10% pay cut into the foreseeable future." And so that's something else that companies are going to employ. So
yeah. We'll see. I'm yeah. We'll see. Uh, I'm hoping that that mm, within a month or so we've got this all figured out and everything just kind of goes back to normal, or something bigger else in the news happens, and that's what takes the cycle. So I can just stop thinking about this all the time.
the United States has some retaliatory airstrikes
Going on,
Wednesday on
yeah,
the outskirts of Iraq, but that barely even made the news.
yeah. Yeah, I heard. Yeah, next to coronavirus. If that was, we'd be hearing about that nonstop for a whole week.
Hmm.
If it wasn't for the coronavirus. So I guess there's some benefit there, is that it drowns out other news. But man, Twitter, I can't even go on Twitter. It's like every other tweet is
I
freaking
haven't
about
checked
the
my
coronavirus.
notifications. I've only like checked my messages. I haven't looked at so I have like, I think I have like 20 notifications. I haven't looked at it ever since I decided to troll like 2 weeks ago. Because I know once I look at it, I'm gonna start replying. And like, I've been busy with a new assignment at my job, and I just don't want to context switch. So
Hmm.
I know myself. I know I'm going to start replying and digging myself deeper with these Twitter fanatics. So,
Yeah, it's awful. Well, at least we get good memes on the internet about toilet paper. People
oh
buying up
yeah,
toilet paper.
yeah. My girl was telling me how ridiculous it was at Costco, where people were like buying like hella packages of toilet paper. They were buying like hella gallons or liters of milk.
It all goes
And
bad for like in like 2 weeks.
well, that's what I said. And she was like, "Oh no, you could freeze it." I'm like, "Oh, I never considered that." But it's, and the worst thing is people lining up at gas stations for cheap gas, and I'm like, you're gonna spend half an hour, 45 minutes of your life waiting to get gas that you're just gonna burn up any like. I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess I'm removed. I mean, I'm not balling out of control anymore, but like these are the mentalities of peasants, man. These aren't people
yeah,
that like think and grow rich type mentalities. So
yeah.
um,
I don't know about the toilet paper thing. Um, I don't understand it, but it does kind of suck if you just want to go buy a roll because you need one. Like, I don't
and
know.
that's
Actually, I was thinking about that. You should start a TP exchange program. Use your maybe you can have it go viral. Use your beach delivery thing, but change it to
toilet delivery.
TP TP share or something like that. So you go on and say, "Hey, I have toilet paper," and
Yeah,
then somebody could go on and the only button on your purchase thing is toilet paper, and you could just aggregate what people are offering it for, and then you could click, buy toilet paper, and
and
it
I
would
get
hook
held
you
at
up with the
gunpoint as
cheapest.
I'm delivering it.
and then
Give me
and
that toilet
then
paper, son.
then they do the transaction for the toilet paper, and then you could go deliver it to their front porch
There you go.
or
Just for
whatever.
someone else to take it off the front porch.
Yeah. So
In software news, um, there's a couple things. I have this annoying bug where if I publish to two specific topics out of like a plethora of topics, but two specific topics, my mobile app doesn't receive the incoming message as a result of that publication. Now I could just change the topic name of that message and it receives it every single time. I wrote a dissertation on Stack Overflow explaining my issue, and no one responded, no one commented. I then put up a 50-point bounty on it, and I still don't think anybody responded to it. So I might have to raise it to like 100 and then 200. And then, like, after 200, if no one responds, I'm going to probably open up a ticket. I'm scared that that ticket's probably going to cost me like $300. You know how much tickets cost at Microsoft for support?
no, they're
I,
expensive.
I know with Xamarin it's free for, I think you have up to 3 tickets that you can create a year, and it's free with Xamarin support. With Azure, I'm scared they're going to rate me with no Vaseline. But like, I'm blocked, you know. Um, so, but I did install. I did create a Stripe account based on your recommendation or your insight, and so I registered that. Wrote them a dissertation of how I want to use their platform, which I haven't got an email back. But then again, I got 20 voicemails because I'm in Canada right now, so I haven't heard any of my voicemails. Um, so even though I'm blocked on the Azure part, which I need so that I could publish courier status messages, so I could update the 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 UX on the courier on the customer app. I then started building out some infrastructure for Stripe integration, specifically creating a card holder. Hence, a card holder is Juan or whatever, that is going to be a courier since I accepted their application, and so put in Juan's name and address. All this is programmatically as a service during the acceptance. I don't know, workflow of a courier applicant. Juan receives a bank card in the mail with the beach delivery or whatever the name of the business is, debit card. And then when Juan launches the app, subscribes to customer orders, receives the order, he accepts, he is en route, he has his card with him, he gets to Popeye's chicken or whatever. Um, what as soon as he accepts that order, programmatically, I need to write the code to authorize a specific amount on that card for a transaction, and to approve the transaction when when that service receives that event, and that's it. Um, the question is, and I struggle with this. Wisdom tells me I should create a separate business account just for this delivery service and not use my Bizmonger business account. But I don't want to pay another $20 a month for a checking account, because then that'll be $40 that I'm paying a month, and I'm not making that type of money. I'm not. I just work part time, man. I'm not balling out of control with a sick hourly rate like I'm used to having. I'm sure that was a lot of brain dump that I just did, but
Hmm.
that's my status right now.
Yeah. Um, so Stripe, that what you had to apply for was not just Stripe, but do they have the whole applied, limited amount to a gift card type thing, or not a gift card, but like a
Uh,
temporary card or whatever?
it's like a financial service, right? And
Hmm.
so my understanding is you just deposit money onto cardholders' accounts. Like you take money out of whatever account you have and you transfer that money to their account.
Sure.
So there's like no credit or anything. It's literally whatever money that you have, you withdraw it from whatever person account that you have and you put it into their account. And then so like if I wanted to, I could put like $5,000 or let's say $500 on Juan's account, but Juan can't just say ball in and go to the strip club and like I don't know, purchase a whole bunch of lap dances with the card that I issued to him. Instead, if Juan does try to go to the strip club and buy drinks or whatever, it still requires an approval by me or by the service that I built. That approval or 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 that authorization, is going to let me programmatically say the category of the merchant that transaction is allowed to go through, as well as like I think there's like a max amount or a specific amount that I can just authorize.
Hmm.
So there's still like a lot for me to learn about that platform. I just I just scratched the surface of it like literally like um, last night.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. It's going to make me a better developer, and I want to be the technical authority in the state of Florida for order fulfillment
Yeah.
integration.
Well, I guess you'll be, if you can get through this and if you can do that complex of a scenario, you could definitely put on your resume, Stripe integration. And that'd probably open up a bunch of doors for potential startup type work too.
I never even considered that aspect of it. Um, yeah. When was the last time you read a book that was kind of a red pill and it changed everything you thought about what you were fed, about whatever belief you had?
Um, uh, I don't know that I've ever really read a book that's changed my life, but one there that I had a lot of moments of maybe I guess thought provoking type book. Um, uh, Maybe I don't know. The first thing that popped in my mind was Unscripted by TJ DJ DJ Demar. No, whatever Demarco did the Millionaire Fastlane book, but he did this book called Unscripted. Um, and I haven't really been acting on that, so I wouldn't say changed my life. But at the time, it was really seemed very. It got my mind spinning, anyways. So
What was that book about?
Unscripted. Um, so it's about. Uh, so he talks about. So I guess defining the script. The script is kind of the what we're taught to go through in life. So we're basically we go to school and we're trained to be kind of like uh, obedient workers that want to buy material goods, and stuff like that. And then we go to jobs and and then we go into school and we get loans that then force us to continually have to um, work at a job to pay off those loans, and then we're told to invest in our 401ks so that when we're 60 we can basically just have a couple years of finally freedom. It's kind of like a yeah, I don't know. He's got a very good and very blunt writing style that I enjoy. Um, but yeah,
It
it's
sounds like 4 Hour Work Week
yeah,
by
it's
Paris.
similar. Yeah, it's similar to 4 Hour Work Week. It's less that I mean there is kind of some hows, but I don't know. He like one of the things that he has in the book that I thought was really good was you ever hear the parable of the Mexican fisherman?
No.
Um, and Dave Rail talked about this a few times on his podcast, but it was like this fisherman in Mexico is I can't remember the exact story, but the this fisherman in Mexico is doing really well. So this banker kind of sees him and he says, "Hey, why don't you turn this into a big business? I can help you with that. We can go and we can put money and do this and that." And he's like, "Well, why would I do that?" Or no, no. So this fisherman, he fishes. He goes out like for a few hours a day, catches a fish, goes home and it eats it. And um, this guy's basically trying to talk him into turning that into a big fishing business. And the rationale the business person gives is like, well, once you do that, then you can take time off and you can go and have a siesta and whatever. And he's like, but this is what I already do. And I can't remember the exact story. It's it basically ends with the Mexican fisherman being like, I don't need to turn this into a big business. I'm already doing all of these things. Um, Being able to just go home, have a siesta and whatever. But then in M in M in TJ MJ DeMarco in Unscripted, he's like, but you don't know the second half to this story. um, and he says, and then one day the Mexican government looks and sees how well this fisherman is doing and decides that we need to enact a taxation policy on private fishing vessels um, in the region. So then they up the they add regulation that requires him to pay a certain amount, which means he's got to fish twice as long. But then his boat goes under and he doesn't have insurance on his boat, so he loses everything, and now he's basically, his wife then gets mad and leaves him.
Oh wow. Okay.
So he goes off the deep end in terms of, you know, the Mexican fisherman isn't thinking about the fact that in yeah, like right now things could be going good, but unless you're able to be self-sufficient in some way, you're never really guaranteed to maintain that style of, or there's little guarantee that you'll be able to maintain the lifestyle for a long time. So I don't know. It's yeah, I can't tell that story very well, but there's things like that he talks about and ways that he puts things. He goes into this one chapter and talks about it's just a story of a guy who gets up and goes to work and then comes back home, and it's the most depressing thing. It's written, it's hilarious, but it's really depressing.
Hmm.
So, um,
That doesn't sound like a red pill book at all.
oh man, it's I don't know, it's funny. I don't know. Other than that, maybe like uh, I don't know, like a psycho-cybernetics was pretty intriguing when I read it or listened to it rather.
Yeah,
So
I have that book. I just don't remember what it actually talked about. I mean, at a high level, I think it was like a rah rah, think it, you believe it, because he was the surgeon that documented uh, the behavioral changes of people that were scarred and weren't really presentable to the public, to their change in mentality and their health when they had reconstructive surgery, and how he was amazed how like the only thing that really changed physically was their exterior makeup, or their face, but it had profound effects on their life and their psyche, or
mhm.
aka their personality is personal reality. So okay, I'm starting to have a flashback of what that book was talking about now.
Yeah, a lot of the visualization. I think it was, there's been a lot of books on visualization, um, but the way that it's described in terms of our bodies being machines that kind of realize whatever we think, um, whatever instruction set we put into it, um, and the idea that visualization, that you can't tell the difference between an event that you imagined and the event that actually happened. So if you imagine something enough, the idea is that your body will seek to make that the reality, so that it things kind of more naturally happen versus having to use willpower to force it to do that.
Uh,
So it's a, I don't know. I don't have the, I don't say I don't. Uh, it's a difficult for me to act upon the advice of that book, though, and sit down and do the visualizations for the time necessary to see the presumed benefit, I guess.
yeah,
But
I will require tools in order to be successful at it. I'll have to be on some shrooms or something, because that's the only way for me to like not analyze the hell out of my surroundings. Um, yeah, there's no spirituality with me at all. I purchased this book. You're familiar with Javal Lowy? Sound familiar?
No.
He wrote some books on Windows Communication Foundation. Um, so he has this book called Writing Software with a play on words, specifically Rightting.
Hmm.
And that book, like, I read it twice. I bought it. I bought it like 5 days ago, and that book completely changed mm, my understanding of. It completely changed what I thought about the process of building software, or specifically, well, yeah, building software, but zeros in on two specific uh, pieces of it, for lack of a better term. Um, the system design or architecture or the architecture, and then like he introduced this notion that I never even considered, but it makes so much sense, is a project design. Okay, so not only are you designing the system that's to be built for end users to be successful, but you're designing the project of how you're going to do it, right? And so it's very heavy reading. I had a The first time I couldn't really digest it. The second time I'm like 2/3. I have like 2/3 digested. Right, I might have to do it a third time before it finally sinks in at a comfortable level. But moving forward, man, I'm applying what he's advocating. He goes deep on a lot of things. Like, in the sprints are usually. What? I have a private message. Is that from you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry, that was that book I was.
okay. It In the sprints are usually demoing uh, features, right? And it's more of an iterative approach because, well, my personal experience is when demos are when demos at the end of every 2 or 3 weeks are done, you're showing a feature that almost works, right? And it's an iterative uh, process or progression.
Mhm.
He's like, that just doesn't work, and you are just that act alone is constraining developers to introduce error prone practices into the software development phase. Um, soft Building software is not iterative; it's incremental, right? So he was saying iterative is, okay. You need to get from location A to location B. So let's first build a skateboard. That should be relatively cheap, right? And then that'll get someone going. If we still focus on the iterative process, then we'll evolve the skateboard into a motor scooter, and then we'll evolve a motor scooter into a motorcycle, right? It's faster or whatever. Then we'll evolve that motorcycle to a sedan. Then we evolve that sedan into an SUV. Well, all this is iterative, and you're you're really throwing out massive amounts of the original architecture and replacing it, right? And it's just a lot of waste and throwaway. So his argument was saying that software development, especially when it comes to the end of sprints, if you participate in that Scrum type methodology, should not be an iterative process. It should be an incremental process, meaning that we're not going from skateboard to motor scooter to motorcycle to sedan to SUV with all the waste and things that aren't really fully functional, but we're demoing it anyway. But instead, no more iterative. It's really incremental, meaning that just like the assembly plant, at Ford or Tesla, GM, even when you're building out uh, computer chips, microchips, there's like a assembly line type of notion where you build system components. Each component you build in operation, and those components will only be integrated when they are documented and or tested and documented to operate flawlessly, right? So you build individual system components, each of them in isolation, assert that they operate flawlessly, and then you integrate it into the backbone of the system or the system itself. When you follow that process, instead of demoing features, which are basically vertical slices of functionality that almost work, you're demonstrating uh, components that should work flawlessly, right? Which is should take the pressure off. And then as the software development progresses, you're demoing the integration points of these system components, right? This is what it means for the UI to be attached to the controllers or the view models. In regards to individual components, this is the data access component for a user account. Sign in, forgot password, whatever. We're only demoing the services right now. Later on, here's the demo for integrating the the view model or the controller to services, right? And then here's the UI, the controller or view model, and the services integrated. And so it's incremental assembly line approach. But the project design, like he just goes in deep, and I've been applying it towards my project and getting kudos from it from leadership because it really forces you to think about what work can be done first, what work can be done, and you're documenting all this out, and then you're like, all right, based on whatever arbitrary deadline that leadership has given me, what strategies or what options do I have to condense this work so that all these business requirements for what the system or application is supposed to do, how much of this can be done in parallel? How much of this needs to be done in series, right? And when you think about building individual components, well, by definition, components can be built in parallel. Um, I mean, I could keep talking and talking, but that book just I read it twice, and it really revolutionized I'll just say, it just, for me, it was a revelation about how everything that I've been doing, a lot of things that I just thought you're supposed to do, is just wrong. And he convinced me, regardless of if he convinces other people or not, like I'm convinced. So I'm about to be a practitioner.
So you're gonna do scaled agile framework then? Is that what you're talking about doing?
Is that what people call it?
Well, I'm thinking about this in terms of the work that I'm doing and the work that I'm seeing larger organizations do is they have agile teams that are working incrementally on pieces, components, whatever. But then they see that as insufficient because
Of
they
course
need
they
to
do.
lockstep everything. So then we get, well, like what we do is we have program increments. And so what they do is they define high level business capabilities, and then they say, okay, these are what are important this next increment. So it's uh, like a 6 sprint type increment or whatever. And this is what we're gonna do in that increment. So then they figure out at that point. Then they do kind of what you're saying. They figure out, okay, what do we need to do to realize these features or these capabilities between now and then? What teams can do their work in parallel? Where are there dependencies between them? And that kind of stuff. So it gets into it sounds very similar to that whole thing. The I guess the issue I take with it is that once, if you're building, and let's say you have kind of ownership over one of these services, and you're building it, and the business capabilities only give you a month, one sprint's worth of work as part of your thing. You've got 6 sprints worth of other capability you can do, but it's not part of the increment. So you just basically start bumbling around. Like, what do I do now?
So
There's
the
a lot of potential waste in not optimizing, regularly optimizing what we can work on. So,
right the
yeah.
my understanding of the project design is that at an architect level, you are documenting your plan for achieving whatever business objective, uh, based on the technical orchestration of building out things, right? And it's something that conveys the options, right? So something that I learned, and it's kind of analogous to like electing a president, right? You don't really have a choice. You're only told pick from either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. That's it. Those are your choices, right? So we think that we have choice to pick who rules over us, but yet we're given the options of who to pick from, right? And so it's kind of similar where with this project plan, you're documenting the the risks, the how you can mitigate those risks, and the options for achieving those objectives with the the advantages and disadvantages of each of those options as it relates to the risk in achieving that objective, right? And so you the book was advocating that when you provide this project design and you flesh out all of this, um, when you provide them these options that are documented, they choose, right? And whatever they choose, now that burden is on them. You're no longer the scapegoat because this is what they decided on based on the options that you provided them. And so the maybe in theory it's different and practice is completely different, but once they sign off on this project design with the options that they selected, well, if they change their decisions or whatever, are you really the scapegoat, or did they deviate from the plan? And I know software development is always a change, right? You're always responding to change. Me articulating this isn't going to do it justice because I'm probably butchering what the book is advising, but it convinced me. Um, I think one of the hardest arguments is the spirit of agile. If you ask me, or at least when it comes to mainstream, is you're at the end of every sprint, you're well, okay, Scrum. You're delivering working software. And I think that's where a lot of business folks are probably going to get tripped up on is the fact that this whole iterative over incremental, they're not going to think it's iterative, but that's exactly what it is. They don't want to they don't want their software built on the assembly line. They want at the end of every 2 or 3 weeks, here, boss, I got this working, from front to back, and that's what they want because that's what they were told to expect. So I think that will probably be the biggest barrier.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the thing about the scooter and whatever, and that way of thinking about it, I mean, it's taking into account more that the needs of the person using it than it is how we want to develop software, or how we, I guess, I mean, I guess it would be kind of great if we could say, here's the here at the beginning of this is the need. We get the requirements about it. We basically just do a big waterfowl effort. Um, but the thing is that about the whole scooter skateboard metaphor, which I've heard before, is that you're providing someone with the means to travel quicker, even if there's waste along the way. And I'm thinking about, if you're in a situation where you've got quick sales things, or if you're working on an existing product, not one that you're making from scratch or a greenfield type thing. If you're working on something that's existing, you might just be wanting to add a small feature fairly quickly to satisfy some sort of immediate business need, um, or some sort of capability that they want to deliver to their customers within so much to be competitive in the market space. But even for lean startup type stuff, um, I mean, you need to get the ball rolling so you can figure out what what you need in the next step. They don't have a plan for a full increment worth of work. It's, I need the skateboard so I can get rolling, and then I'll figure out from there if we need, a motor scooter, because because that assumes that the progression is always to an SUV, but the progression might be to I don't know, an aquarium. We don't know.
Right.
So I guess I don't know that what you're saying is particularly useful in all contexts. Um,
In
it
all
might
contexts,
be,
it probably won't apply.
yeah, it might be for like more heavier projects, or things where there's more, where you're building out a brand new product, you've got a longer runway, um, the business has money to spend for it, those
I
kinds
don't
of
think so.
deals.
I don't think so. Here's, and this might be a religious debate, but
Yeah.
here's the thing with the with what you just explained. How's that working out?
How's that working out? What do you mean, how's it
Yeah,
working out?
where you're saying that based on context, what I attempted to explain just may not be feasible based on customers needing something like now, and then they could gradually evolve it. That's almost always the case, right? And well, what's the failure rate of software projects? Because I could almost, I know that for the majority of software projects, they follow that approach, and I would argue that the percentage of failed projects is, I would argue, probably well over 60%, right?
But what are we classifying as a failed project? I mean,
Uh, Exceeded budget
okay, so
is one.
based off of
Ne-
budget then.
Never delivered is two. Uh, Significant quality issues is three. And so, like, the the context that you provided, I agree with. But if we, if as an industry we keep repeating the same process, and the probability of achieving specific results, in this case, maintenance heavy, underdelivered software systems, is 60% or whatever, should we still be following that process,
So I
regardless
mean,
of what people want?
but we've been evolving. I mean, we evolved. Well, we're trying to evolve away from waterfall development thinking,
We
right?
evolved. We evolved so much that a a formal training, hence a A bachelor's in computer information science is no longer required to be a professional software engineer. That's how much we've achieved.
Well, that's a
Basically,
little bit
academia has
different, though.
failed. Academia has failed the industry where you no longer need a computer science degree because the industry has deemed it worthless. Those are the milestones that we've made. We
Well,
failed.
it's I don't think that's true. There's plenty of people that still value a computer science degree, but a lot of it depends on just what they're looking for and how fast they want to get. And there's absolutely no need for a computer science degree if you can grok this stuff and get into it doesn't take a computer science degree to have someone manipulate the position of a button a few pixels across the screen, those kinds of
Right, right.
tasks.
Not a computer science degree,
Yeah.
but I would argue that there's a higher probability of success when you have formal training in software engineering.
Yeah, and
You
well,
you would agree to
that's
that.
yeah, and I think most of that is that you weed out the people that either are not serious about it or just don't have the chops for it. And it's nothing to do with probably mental capacity there, but it's just sometimes natural skill set. Uh, People with natural skill sets are something where they actually have to go through some sort of rigorous thing to evolve themselves. Just generally will come out better. So, I mean, there were people that, as much as they tried when I was in my CS degree or at school, like as much as they tried, they had the heart, they were positive. They didn't grok in their heads how to do software, and it's just how to just write basic algorithms and stuff like that. And those people evolved and did other things. But when you're going through a 2 week boot camp process where everything's handheld a lot, um, I'm sure that there's not as much of a weeding out process. So I think that's probably more what we're seeing than the value. So if you knew who those people were that were going to be able to make it through a CS degree and be come out the other side and become competent developers, if you could foresee that, um, you'd probably you wouldn't need to necessarily put those people through that.
Yeah,
It depends on too what you're doing, though. I mean, a lot about computer science isn't about writing business software. It's about um, like data crunching and
yeah. Well, computer
algorithms
science
and
period isn't about
mathematics and
isn't
yeah,
about business. That's what your minors are in. Whether like my
yeah,
minor was in uh, business accounting.
yeah.
My
Well,
major was yeah.
my other one was in philosophy, so
Yeah.
I'm not really using much of that nowadays. But
But I don't know. To summarize, my argument is, and I guess I don't know what was the story. Ford. If I listened to my customers, I would have had 100 horses or whatever, 100 horse carriage or whatever.
yeah,
Uh, my my argument is regardless of what management wants, that's fine. What's not fine is how they dictate how software is being built because they're not the ones that understand software. They're not the ones that have failed hands-on building software. That's what experience is, right?
yeah,
So it's my argument is it's not business stakeholders' place to enforce how software is being developed. That responsibility is in the experience of the engineers themselves, and they are to manage the expectations and provide the options for business leadership to pick from, with emphasis on to pick from. Right. So I mean that's my thought process. Today it's not working. We have people that have no engineering background at all that can get a job paying 65, $70,000 an hour off of their 3 month training or 6 month training.
yeah. Well, I think those are
That's an
definitely
issue, but that's not only an issue, that's a symptom of the industry
yeah.
itself. We're not trusted. Period.
Yeah. Well, I see that in a lot of like what I do about the not trusted thing, in terms of it takes a lot for you to actually be involved in and discuss alternatives to business process type stuff. Like I what I hate is that they like there's at least in the current place that I'm at, there's a real stigma maybe about inviting developers to meetings because that'll take up their precious development time. And it's like, man, I tell you what, I come out, depending on the type of meeting, if it's discussing, here's what we're going to build, here's our options, how can we do this, it's thinking about the nature of some work we're going to do, and we have the opportunity to provide alternatives and think of creative ways to do it faster or whatever. Like, man, I come out of those energized and I feel like I contribute to them um, pretty well. So those kinds of meetings are great, but um, I don't think we get invited to those very often as much as we should be, probably. Like, we should be right there with the business people discussing their needs and stuff. And it's there. I think really more the problem is that with where we've evolved to is we still haven't shaken off the middle management slash BA level of things and just say, hey, you got the engineering teams and you've got the business people together and they work together. There's still these layers of infrastructure separating developers from the rest of the business. And the fact that we even say that, like, oh, there's the business and then there's us. This is what the business wants. That's implying that you're not the business.
Good
You,
point.
you
I never
should
even
be.
considered that.
Like I've tried to. It's easy to talk about it in that terms, being like, this is what they want, but it's really should be, why isn't it what we want? You know, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm working with you, even as a contractor, as long as I'm not, a completely separate contracted out, or you're given a spec and you're just farming out code and it's done, and it doesn't matter if it's good. But if you're actually intimately working with the people, uh, you are part of the business. If they employ you, you are part of it. So it should never be, this is what the business wants, as a separate person. It should be, this is what we want, and you're involved, just as involved in that. But I don't know why they still want to compartmentalize us and treat us like just resources that they pass data off to and get back results from. So
Because we failed them and we no longer need college degrees.
we didn't fail them. They
We did
haven't
fail
given
them.
they haven't given us a chance to fail them. You know who failed them was all the middle management type business analyst type people. The people that failed out of
Then
their engineering
why were they
degrees are when,
hired? Eh, I
yeah,
agree with you. The
yeah,
peop like, I mean, like, I say the same thing, I just say it harsher, but basically the people that couldn't cut it are project managers. Now, I know that's not true for everybody, but like, yeah, project managers, scrum masters. Hey, lo and behold, Cleveland State University, I went to school with these people. They couldn't cut it in computer engineering or computer science, but they still want to do IT. Well, this is where they ended up
yeah. That was the
having higher
progression.
influence in how systems are built than the ones that are actually building it.
That was the
So freaking
progression.
political.
It was always, okay, they're involved in computer science. If they failed out of computer science, they went to computer information systems. If they failed out of that, they went into business. That was the progression. And then if they failed out of that, they finally went into marketing. But
How you feel out of information systems? Because all they're doing, the only programming that they did when I was in college was
cold lab.
like, I have a mainframe
Yeah,
associate's degree, but no, the only programming that they would have to do, and this was like in 2007, was like Visual Basic. They
yeah.
didn't have to do any C++,
And
any C
maybe
sharp or
some
Java,
web development now. But yeah, no, it's
and they did
yeah.
Excel spreadsheets. Like that's all. That was what was required of them.
Yeah, you still had to do, at least in ours, you still had to do at least the computer science one. And I can't remember, maybe computer science two. But that's enough that would deter some people. But yeah, the thing is that those, um, everyone who's making a buck off of trying to put scrum masters in and control the process and scaling it, like that whole infrastructure um, is what I see as a bigger problem, and it's probably because a lot of historically, anyways, a lot of people who could cut it in software development just don't have the business acumen or the uh, they just, to go with office space. They're just not good at dealing with people. Um,
Mm.
but I think there's plenty of people that can deal with the business and can think off of that if given the proper access and opportunity, um, and can really contribute to the business in ways that is underutilized right now, in terms of thinking through different possible solutions to process problems, or finding ways to solve a need faster instead of somebody in the middle saying, okay, this is what they need, and then being like, here's what you're gonna do, and then you go off and do it. You could be like, well, that's one way we could do it, but we could do it like this, and that would save this much time and this much energy and this much money, and then yeah. Actually, I mean, I'm in this discussion right now. I was ranting about something last week, and we reached out to some of the people kind of that are on our side. And I was discussing yesterday. We were like, well, what's your kind of like longer term plans for this area? And he's like, and then the business guy was kind of like, well, um, we don't, I don't want to add scope to this. And I'm like, well, that's what we're trying to figure out, because this thing that we're doing adds a crap ton of scope to the project. And the value we see out of it is minimal, like extremely minimal. Like you're not getting anything for this. So what we're trying to find is, how did this get added in the first place? And I think it was because a couple of, and really what I found out is that somebody wrote an email that said the sky is falling, and then a couple of people took a look at it and said, well, we clearly need this, and they happen to be architects, and now suddenly it's prioritized when if you looked at it critically and we're close to this for any period of time, you realize this isn't needed. We're not gaining anything from it right now. Which is why we were fishing for in the first place. We were fishing for, what's your long-term vision here? Because we're trying to find some way to actually justify the work that we're going to spend on this. So we can say, well, we don't know about this long-term capability that you were looking to have, and that this is you saw this is the first step, which it still isn't, shouldn't be. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm hoping that, I think to the software leadership, quote unquote, in terms of like some of the architects and some of the business analyst people, us pushing back on this is going to be seen as just disruptive and, oh, you're not being a team player or whatever. But in my mind, I'm like,
Well,
hey, I
hold on.
want the business to get,
If I
like,
could cut in,
yeah.
is there not an architect?
Oh, there is, but he's
He's not catching it, or she?
well, he's the one who's pushing for it, and I don't know why. I can sit down and explain the technical aspect of that it's we're not gaining anything. um or if you look, there could be something where, yeah, we could get to this point at one point in time in the future.
So I'm
But
selling this book for
yeah,
Javal Lowy. I didn't mean to cut you off. That was rude. My
yeah,
apologies. But the book says that an architect should provide a design that not only satisfies that particular business domain, but also is feasible for the developers to build it. Right? It doesn't make sense to hand out a WCF system architecture to a whole bunch of junior developers. Right? what are they going to do with that, right? And so like it was just advocating that your architect should convince you, and if you still don't believe in that particular vision or technical vision, then there needs to be another option that's presented.
Yeah. Well, I definitely don't
Else,
believe in
his
the.
design's not his architecture isn't going to be met. His design's not going to be met if the developers don't believe in it. They're just going to butcher it or just completely ignore it.
Well, yeah, and we're raising this, and somebody followed up with somebody else, and the thing that I gotta head out here soon, but
Yeah,
the thing that I was told to expect was that we're gonna have a meeting, and the meeting's gonna say that this person's the architect and this is what they want, so we're doing it. And I'm like sitting here like I'm never gonna ever sit through a meeting where somebody invokes a title to explain why we need to do something, you know, ever again. So I'm like that would be the straw, except for it's happening at the time when the coronavirus is going on. So
yeah, poor
where I'm
timing.
just like, I'm not going to deal with this shit. I'm not going to deal with that. If I figure something is wrong and I see it being wrong, I'm never again going to sit back and just say, no, no, I guess I just told that person they're in this position, so they are clearly right. That cost me pretty much a job interview once. That mentality of letting architects roll over you when you know something's wrong.
Yeah, you mentioned it
So
last time. It's damn if you do, damn if you don't. And I got caught in a similar situation a couple weeks ago. It's like there's no win, right?
yeah,
If you do call out something, then like you clearly don't understand and you're not being a team player. But if the project crashes and burns, well, why didn't you say anything? Oh no,
yeah,
you should like go around the chain of command and you should. This is what we're paying you for. Like I've had that talk to me like 2 weeks ago.
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing is I'm falling into the latter camp of just I think I always just want to raise the flags, and I'm not gonna if they want to if they don't appreciate that, um, then whatever. And the thing is, I'm not unreasonable in terms of if this person explained to me, here's the business capability that we're looking at, here's the roadmap, this is why we need to do it first versus these other more complicated but higher value things. So like what they're prioritizing first is the thing that I would put last, if at all, is the main thing. Because the thing that I look at is that we need to do this because it'll provide a lot of value, and it's hard to do. It's a much harder problem, and that's what we should be focusing on because we get value, and it's going to take us time, and we want to get it. And plus, it enables a lot of these other things. So once we take out that big rock, we'll be able to do this and this and this more effectively. We're providing capability that we build on versus kind of trying to cut to the end without filling in the middle the middle piece. So I'm not going to deal with it anymore. I think this is one where I'm going to be stuck unless somebody can present a compelling case. So yeah, sorry.
Man up.
Yeah, man. That's what exactly it is. So I should
All
probably
right.
get going. I already think I missed my daughter going off on the bus. So
This is a good conversation. If you so, I'm not going to check my notifications because again, I feel like it's going to distract me. But the
yeah.
weekend is here, so I might look at it tomorrow. But if you can, like, I don't know, share the link on social media, I would appreciate it.
Oh, that one.
If it made it on YouTube, 2 weeks ago we did an episode and YouTube refused to show it.
Why?
I don't know if it was a technical issue, but it just said stream not available.
Hmm. No.
I'm not sure if they need to be constrained to be within like 1 hour. I'm not sure. I could check to see if this one has a thumbnail on it on YouTube.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
but
anyways, yeah, I put the book. It's just unscripted by MJ DeMarco, and it's a good read. There's lots of useful information in there in terms of just mindset and stuff. So, but it's definitely about it's definitely trying to argue against the mentality of saving for 50 years in the stock market and then
Oh yeah,
dying.
I agree. I'm all about Tim
So
Ferriss's 4-hour work week about taking many retirements.
yeah,
Looks like you have to go, so we'll catch up.
yeah. All right,
That's a,
have a good
that's a
one.
link right there I just sent you. So, all right, cool. Thanks, Sean.
Yep. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.